Can we call Jamie Shaw friend of the program? He's like your lunch date once every
Hmm.
couple of months. Is that fair?
Yeah, he is a friend of the program. I'm getting lunch with him next week. So,
Love it. Yeah, I'm gonna say when you're not on and Ralph, who used to work with us, is not on. Carter and I don't love to just run around and be like, "We're friends with this guy," because we've only met Jamie Shaw once and like gave him a head nod at a bar. But
mhm.
he's a legitimate personal friend of Riley Davis's, not to name drop. So that makes it fun to do a bunch of shorts today about some content that Jamie Shaw put together. Shout out to Jamie Shaw and the entire team over at On Three. He was at North Carolina behind the scenes, visiting with Hubert Davis and getting an inside look at your favorite basketball team, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Jamie did a great write up with an interview with Hubert and a bunch more of his observations from this trip to North Carolina. So we've got a couple videos on the channel this morning. If you're a Carolina fan, encourage you to check them all out. But I want to start with this. I'm going to read you a question that Jamie Shaw posed Hubert Davis. I'm going to read you Hubert Davis's answer, and then I am certainly going to overreact and twist his words into meaning something it might not mean. Jamie Shaw said, quote, "This is year 5 for you at North Carolina. You've been to an NCAA final, carried a number 1 seed into the tournament. Every team is different. What kind of identity are you seeing early from this team, and what kind of personality is this group showing you?" Hubert Davis said, quote, "It's a very competitive group. It's a team that, in every drill, has a burning desire to compete and get better. It's a group that, personality wise, really enjoys being around each other. You know, we talked this summer. I'm just having a lot of fun coaching this group. You can get after them and then you can laugh. It's just been a lot of fun." End quote. We're all holding hands, singing Kumbaya. We're having a grand old time in Chapel Hill this year. I certainly think this means something from last year to this year, and I'm
Mhm.
curious to get your North Carolina fan perspective on Hubert Davis loving how much his team enjoys being around each other. What does it mean, Riley?
So I consider myself a bit of a Hubert whisperer. I think covering him the past 4 years, like him being hired at UNC really coincided with when I started leaning more into the media side of things. So as I've been at games, as I've been in press conferences, the only thing I know with covering this program is Hubert Davis as the head coach. Of course, my fandom goes back further, but all this is to say I've been in the same room for a Hubert press conference, followed this tenure very closely, obviously have a vested interest in it. And so one of my biggest questions is like, what was the actual tone as he was saying this? Because last year, Greg, whenever he would talk about how much he quote unquote enjoyed coaching this team or liked his guys or whatever, it very much did not sound believable. It was always, yeah, I, I just, I like this team. It's a good group of guys. Where you could tell from the tone, from the pauses, was dude, we don't believe a word you're saying. We can tell just from listening, you're having as little fun as we are watching it. So I think at this time of the year, it's always good to get these kind of quotes. And I've said this on other videos that after the year Carolina had, where your preseason top 10 vastly underachieved, get blasted by every good team you play, just turning the roster over is going to give the fan base a lot of hope, and I think it rightfully so should give the coaching staff some hope. And even beyond that, though, with Hubert, Greg, I have two factors that go outside of this interview that I want to run by you for why I think Hubert might be a little more locked in and why I am giving more validity to these quotes than just like your typical offseason coach speak. Are you ready for them?
I'm so nervous, but yes.
One, I have boots on the ground that spotted Hubert in a cava recently in Chapel Hill. My guy is locked in, getting that nutrition right. You know, he's working those kava rewards, not hitting up the more what's the word I'm looking for? The more unhealthy options on Franklin Street. Secondly, the photo that Jamie Shaw added with Hubert, he's wearing some Nike Zoom Vomeros, which are very in with the kids these days. Typically he wears like these like very nondescript casual Jordans that aren't particularly cool, but the fact that he's up the shoe game a little bit, I'm like, okay, Hubert might be feeling himself a little bit. This is, and remember, when you factor that into an even year Hubert, good things could happen.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. No, I buy that. I love the boots on the ground Kava, by the way. Incredible stuff. Who says you don't get real reporting from Sleepers Media? No,
Facts.
Jamie did a good job with this. I agree. Like listening to this clip might be more telling than reading the quote. However, I buy it. Like if you want
Hmm.
my interpretation of vibes, right? We do off-season what's it called? State of the programs, and I insist that we have a whole category for vibes. Vibes matter to me. I think being happy doing what you're doing is one of the most underrated things in life. It is so important. You can't be successful, in my opinion, unless there's a genuine joy doing what you're trying to do. And there's limitations if you aren't. And I think everyone on earth that witnessed this, both inside and outside of the North Carolina program, would be correct in saying last year you could tell there was no joy. There were
Hmm.
a lot of moving agendas from different moving pieces of that team. You had Drake Powell, who very clearly just wanted to get to the league, but was not in a great position to do so. You had Ian Jackson, who very clearly was annoyed with Roll. You had Elliot Cadeau, who at all times was losing his mind. It was a strange group to say the least. And I fully believe, 100% believe that if I was coaching, let alone Hubert Davis, if I was coaching that group, by the end of the year, I would have no energy left. I
Hmm.
would not be enjoying coming to work. I would be dreading trying to get the vibes of that team on pace. So it's a whole new locker room. It's intentionally a whole new locker room. And if we're going guy by guy, we don't know. We haven't seen some of these guys on the court yet. I don't know these personalities. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I do know a couple things. Luka Bogovac is probably ecstatic to be in a North Carolina uniform. There's an excitement and a thrill for a kid coming from overseas to a program like this.
Hmm.
Kyan Evans is probably just out of his mind happy to be at North Carolina from his background. These freshman guards that Hubert Davis has given a lot of praise to are probably overjoyed and don't know any better about what it is to step into North Carolina. And
Hmm.
honestly, Seth Trimble's probably looking around like, just thank God I got some new people around me.
Hmm.
So I fully buy that positivity is through a roof right now for North Carolina compared to last year. I do want to ask you this, with my interpretation being kind of looking at what the team was last year, the interesting two words here are personality wise. Do you think that is a direct shot at the personalities on last year's team? And is this Hubert sort of saying, yeah, I had some guys that didn't get along, and that was part of last year's problem?
I don't think I don't know what Hubert's implying. You know, he likes to keep things pretty buttoned up, but I don't know how you could watch UNC's team last year and think that team got along. They didn't seem connected. There was maybe you could argue during that 6 game stretch where they played some of the most unserious teams in the ACC, they were starting to gel a little bit. But even during that stretch, I mean, it seemed like guys were happy for Jalen Withers coming into his own, but at the same time, it's like, dude, this is Jalen Withers. You know, this is not a future NBA player like Caleb Wilson, who's also embraced being in Chapel Hill. It's not someone who's like a program shifter who the whole team is going to rally around. It's a 6 year guy who got hot from beyond the arc for a couple weeks. And I think even while that streak was going on, when Carolina went from being, I think they were 14-11 and were like 20-12 going into the ACC tournament, insane that Carolina's ever 14-11. I still think that's unacceptable, and I truly can't believe that happened. Anyway, with the returning All American, but people wonder why I get angsty about my program. But even while that was going on, when they were surging, was like Ian Jackson was falling out of the rotation. Or maybe not out altogether, but his minutes were going from consistently 25 plus to more in the 16 to 17 a night range. And even Elliot Cadeau, his minutes fluctuated some after having a almost like such a long leash for most of the season to where, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if, I mean, even looking at the way Seth Trimble played down the stretch of last season, he wasn't looking to pass. You know, we've made comments before that he has a career 9% assist rate, something that needs to get much better this year as he's stepping into a bigger role. But that bore itself out on the court. Like he was not looking to pass. There was no trust, at least from an on-court perspective. and they got hot, won a couple games by like 20, but I think that was more a reflection of the competition. So, yeah, I think there is something to be said where this year that's something Hubert's really harping on is like these guys get along. And I think when you have someone like Caleb Wilson, who has that gravitas where guys are sort of flocking around him and following his lead because, it doesn't take a genius to realize he's the one with the best long-term NBA future there. And when you factor that in with the leadership, with the ability to gather people rather, and I think Seth Trimble is really, it sounds like he has been good at that as well this offseason. That, yeah, there's a lot of new energy and maybe some new camaraderie has been found that just wasn't there last year.
Dion, how's your job going?
Beginning of the school year, everything's like a little up and down. One of the biggest issues we've had is we can't find any uniforms for our girls' sports teams.
Mm, that's a difficult thing to find a solution for. I know damn well all about that because I got a daughter that just turned 2. She's into sports and she's already outgrowing every little piece of sports apparel she had. Thankfully, I know Clara Kate Creations. Clara Kate Creations was started by a former high school teacher who quit because it wasn't cost effective to send new twins and a 2-year-old to daycare. She found it easier to make girls' sports apparel than finding it to buy. And I am so thankful that she exists because if we have an old shirt of Murph's that she's outgrown, we can send it in and she takes that piece of apparel that means something and upcycles it into an outfit that Murphy can now wear as she grows up. She makes great stuff. It's honestly kind of like your fullback's wife, Kyle Juszczyk. Is that how you say it? She does that. But honestly, I think Clara Kate's coming for Mrs. Juszczyk's job.
I love that. I'm a big Juice guy, love his wife. Love Claire Kate even more than both of them, though.
You can send in your own custom ideas and she will come up with a design. She's just the best. Look up Clara Kate Creations on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and more. So quickly, you said, I don't know how you could watch this team last year and think that they did get along. Who do you blame for that?
It, I mean, I don't want to blame people. Not RJ, not Drake. Anybody else is fair game.
Like, obviously, there's multiple contributing factors. It's not
Hmm.
just one person's fault. If you were going to assign responsibility on this team didn't get along, I would think it has to fall on the shoulders of the head coach because
Hmm.
ultimately he's the guy that put the roster together and did
It's
all these
fair.
things. However, I've also experienced watching my own program through the years, have years where I don't blame the head coach and there's just toxicity coming from one direction. You could convince me that that was from your point guard. You could convince me that that was from your 5-star shooting guard. You could convince
Hmm.
me that's from a lot of different guys on that team. So I'm just curious if you do feel that there is an answer, even if you don't want to say it out loud. Would you say it privately after we end this video?
I mean, I think in terms of the head coach and where that falls on him, even doing did a UNC podcast yesterday with my guy Lindsell Graham and Pablo Kong, and Pablo made the point to me that this year is it actually a team. Like even if there's less star power because there's no RJ Davis, there are fewer 5 stars. You don't have both Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. You still have Caleb Wilson, but you like RJ was one of the what 2 or 3 most recognizable names in the sport last year.
Yeah.
And
Preseason National Player of the Year candidate, right? It was him and Mark
yeah,
Sears. Yeah.
and even the year before, you had RJ and Armando, like two of the staples of college basketball over the past, let's say, 3 or 4 years at this point, because of their longevity, their achievements, all of that. So this team doesn't have that star power, it doesn't have this known faces, and even in a vacuum, might not have as much high end talent. There's plenty of questions here, but at least what you can say as you look at this roster is the pieces fit. You have guys who you can envision in their role. Where last year it was like, do you really want to play Drake Powell, who's 6'6" at the 4, with Ben Allen Lubin, who's also 6'6" at the 5? Is that going to work? Do you really want to lean on Jalen Withers for 25 minutes a game if you try to go small and put him at the 5? Everybody's small. None of it works. The rebounding was non-existent, and the interior defense just got gashed. So, again, that's where I would say, it does fall on the head coach where he constructed a roster full of ball dominant guards when you have
Yeah.
Elliott, RJ, Seth, and Ian, who all want the ball in their hands. So I could see how that led to some tension. And then when you mentioned with Cadeau, with just some of the body language stuff between him and Ian Jackson, like I know they're the 2 guys who departed, so it's easy to blame them. I wouldn't say Seth is exempt from this either, even what I was saying. Like I thought he had tunnel vision a ton down the stretch of last season. So
Yeah.
plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think especially at the guard spot. I mean, specifically the point guard spot, but the guard spot in general. You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. I think that's true with a lot of things in life. I would point to a different sport right now. You can't really have three quarterbacks and have guys be happy. As Dylan Gabriel is now named the starter, Shador Sanders is making an ass of himself publicly about it. Like, I think that happened repeatedly at Carolina last year because you had four ball dominant guards that all wanted the ball, and in the end, it was in one guy's hands. Now, that one guy didn't handle it well, and I'll paraphrase this for you if you don't want to flat out say it. I will because he's my point guard now. It was Elliot Cadeau. It was
Hmm.
Elliot Cadeau that was a huge problem with this entire. Oh, guys don't get along? Yeah, because it's Elliot Cadeau's team. So my team's got to deal with that now. We'll see if Dusty May navigates it better than Hubert did, but yeah, that's my interpretation.
I know this is a UNC video, but can I pose a question to you about your team?
Yeah,
What are the Vegas odds right now that Elliot Cadeau pantomimes in an interview this year?
175 to 1. Unlikely.
Wow. Okay. I would have thought maybe you would say it's a little more likely than that.
It's a little bit likely. It really is.
Okay, I'm trying to think what needs to happen to Michigan for it to happen? Like where he just gets played by LJ Kaysen or something, or they
No, I
run
have
the
the
off.
world. I have the world, and it's something I'm on record saying. I think we're heading in this direction. So CJ Moore and I forget who else, somebody else at the national level has been predicting on paper that Michigan's starting lineup is going to be the three bigs. Yaxel at the three, Merez at the four, Mar at the five. Michigan insiders have been, I don't know, they haven't gone that far, but they've said that Morrow will start, which leaves Merez in a really weird spot. Merez did not leave Illinois to not start at Michigan. If Merez doesn't start, we're not keeping Merez. So if I'm trying to piece things together, if Mara is starting, I think Merez is starting too. If Merez and Mara are starting, I think Yaxel's starting. If those three guys are starting, you can't play Elliot Cadeau with them. There's no way you can do that from a spacing perspective. Now, what we can do, what we have heard, is that we're going to use Yaxel the way we use Danny Wolf. How did we use Danny Wolf? He played point guard. He was Michigan's 7-foot point guard. I think where this is headed is Yaxel is Michigan's point guard. The two bigs are in the front court, and you're putting two shooters between them, between Trey McKenney, LJ Case, and Winters Grady, Namari Burnett. I think that's what Michigan's best lineup ends up being. And if that is what Michigan's best lineup ends up being, Elliot Cadeau will be pantomiming in the locker room.
I was gonna say you are getting a pantomiming interview if that's how it plays out.
100%. But the nice thing I would say is this is all a luxurious option that Dusty May has at his disposal. It's not like Hubert Davis could have been like, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll play Van Allen Lubin at shooting guard, and that'll solve
Right.
everything.
Right.
So, anyways, we'll see where this goes. Last note from me on this, because I just enjoy this conversation so much. This is also just what you do after breakups, right? Like respectfully, I'll put this in my own world, my own I'm the head coach world. Brian Ralph, wish him the best. He's incredible. Hope he loves Basket Under Review. He's been great. I gotta tell you, man, personality wise, I just really enjoy being around Tanner McGrath and Ryan Hammer and J Man. Just personality wise, our locker, we just enjoy coming to work every day so much right now, Riley.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, G. I think people might underestimate Hubert. There might be some like low key pettiness there. There has to be. I don't understand how you can be in this spotlight and have your job questioned so much and just continue to keep the like be the nice guy in public all the time. Like I like reading into a little pettiness here to just say, yeah, we're so happy.
Eh,
Life is so much easier.
And
Work is
like
great.
to be clear, I was really happy working with Brian Ralph, but I'm trying to make the point here. Like
Yes,
you've
I did
gotta
take it that way. I did
when
take it that
somebody
way.
leaves, you've gotta. Oh, I've never been happier. My ex is gone, and my new life is great.